morning, everyone. We're about to get started. If you want to grab your seats. Good morning to everyone online this morning. Welcome. We're going to begin with our centering song. God is so good. God is so
breathing into this beautiful presence of Spirit, where God always is, and knowing God is right here, right in this place, in this time, in the beat of the heart. God is good, and bless this service. For this is the power and the presence and the harmony and joy and beauty of God. And this I am one, each one here is one with all of this, the goodness, the greatness and power and love and harmony of abundance and peace. This time is blessed with all of that, and we share it, celebrate it, and know it is good, and so it is.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Beth Haas, not Reverend Catherine. I am the substitute, so I have notes. And I know the love is here to support us as we move through this morning, kind of in the unsupervised cats away, the mice shall play morning. So let's have fun. It is this time of the month of kind of magic and excitement that just goes through the air. So I welcome you. If you are new, this is an intentional community. We practice walking that spiritual path in the outside world, so to speak. So if you are joining us for the first time, welcome. I hope that you find what you're here to find and meet people and find that connection, which we're all rediscovering these days. And so in the spirit of this month, we will be singing and dancing and celebrating and just being in the joy of this time. And so I welcome you in, and we will start with a song by Danielle. And so let her lead us.
Yes, let's all stand together. We're going to sing a wonderful traditional carol. Oh, come all ye faithful. You should have a printout of the lyrics.
For
So this is the moment of our gratitude that we practice. It's a spiritual practice. And I had all these ideas of what to bring in focus, and then when we were singing this song, it kind of dawned on me that we could do our gratitude about the traditions that come along at this time of the year that tie us to all of our past memories, all of those wonderful experiences that we have that make us who we are. Whether they're Christmas songs, I looked out and people were smiling. It's like these old Christmas songs, the carols and whatnot. So I am going to invite you to close your eyes and just go inside. Let that movie run in your mind, in your mind's eye, of Christmases past, holidays past, the traditions, those things that even today can bring a smile to your face. Maybe it's the smell of the pines at Christmas, the pine trees. Maybe it's a favorite recipe. Maybe it's a song. Maybe it's just the sound of jingle bells. So just allow your home movie to run for a moment or two in that connection to the memories that you had from times past and how they still reside within your heart. They reside within that part of you that feels the connection to those that were in your life from an earlier time, how it shaped who you are, how it shows up today in those things that you practice and those things you teach. And just drop into the gratitude for that, giving a sense of acknowledgement that all those memories that run as a movie, that get triggered by sights and sounds and smells and tastes and times of the year. And just allow your heart to kind of open a little more in acknowledgement, in recognition of the gratitude for the life you have lived. You were given a life filled with experiences and memories. And just notice that warming that comes with remembering. And then allow the movie to slow down and tone down, come back into the present. And that's a spiritual practice in itself, is just to remember and to be grateful for those memories and those experiences and those people in your lives. And so at this time, Janie, our practitioner, is going to do our reading.
Our reading today comes from 365 Days of Richer Living. It's written by Ernest Holmes and Raymond Charles Barker. It's available on our bookstore if you'd like a copy. This reading is entitled, I am immersed in intelligence and love. All of God is where I am, and all of good is offered to me. I waste no more time in seeking the truth, for I am in it, and it is me. The present moment is alive with God's intelligence and God's love. Immersed in intelligence, I act as intelligence. Mind in process through me demonstrates that what I select. Thinking in terms of what I want, the law of mind now produces it. Feeling the goodness of life, I now experience it. It is right where I am and is already in action. Immersed in divine love, I am loving. The infinite is no respecter of persons, so I now love all my coworkers, my family, and my friends. Life insists that I do this. Mind challenges me to do this. I know that faults are easy to behold, and I now train my consciousness to seek virtues. Everyone I know has great good within them. I seek this good, for it alone will endure. I now assume my rightful place in the scheme of things. Mind thinks through me and acts as me. The responsibility is mine to think through this day with clarity and to love this day with fullness. Nothing can hinder this decision on my part. Intelligence quickens me to see the truth in my fellow man and thinking rightly about myself and my world affairs. And so it is.
Where are you, Christmas? Why can't I find you? Why have you gone away? Where is the laughter you used to bring me? Why can't I hear music play? My world is changing, I'm rearranging. Does that mean Christmas changes too? Where are you, Christmas? Do you remember the one you used to know? I'm not the same one. See what the time's done. Is that why you have let me go? Christmas is here everywhere. Christmas is here if you care. If there is love in your heart and your mind, you will feel like Christmas all the time. Oh, I feel you, Christmas. I know I found you. You never fade away. Oh, the joy of Christmas stays here inside us, fills each and every heart with love. Where are you, Christmas?
So our speaker this morning we've had before, I think it was this summer. This is Reverend Sarah Adams, and she is back to speak with us again. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of her bio. She's a licensed minister with Centers for Spiritual Living. She was raised in Science of Mind, and some of her favorite memories were attending Youth of Religious Science team camps. As an adult, Sarah spent her early professional life building bridges and roads as an Army engineer, and she has been an educator and school leader for close to 20 years. She has a master's in teaching as well as a master's in consciousness studies. She has a passion for people and building community, believing every being has a unique gift and life path that supports greater and greater revelations of truth. I love that, the building, the bridges, the life path, I love those metaphors. Sorry, that was off script. But I love it. Her mission is to live life awakened to the consciousness behind all forms, with an ear to the still small voice, a heart for our shared humanity, and an eye for the universal arc of transformation unfolding as each of us. So I welcome Reverend Sarah, and am so glad that she is with us today. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's so good to be here. I really appreciate this community. I love Reverend Dr. Catherine. She's a teacher and a friend and a mentor. And thank you, Janie, for the beautiful meditation, and Danielle for the lovely song. Wonderful to be here. So today I'm here to talk about finding hope and joy in a time of darkness. It's that time of year where there are so many traditions that celebrate the light, whether we got to finish Hanukkah this last week, celebrating the lasting light for 8 days and nights, or the Buddhists celebrate the enlightenment of the Buddha this last week. We're coming up into solstice and our celebration of Christmas and the birth of the Christ consciousness in all of us. So it's an important time to think about how we bring our light and our love and our hope and joy in these times. Because sometimes, I think in theory I know that there's only one thing happening all the time, but then there's one thing happening all the time that's not necessarily what I want, right? So how can I remember the core truths and spiritual principles that we practice in Science of Mind? One of my other friends and mentors, Reverend Dr. Guy Williams, was inviting me to think about the Gospels this week in the Gospel of John. And being raised in religious science, I don't have a very deep biblical background, but I do appreciate metaphysical interpretations, certainly. So it's funny, so thinking about the Gospels, I saw an email come through. I get these daily meditations from Richard Rohr, who's a Franciscan priest who also has a metaphysical bent on his interpretation of Christianity. And so talking about the Gospels and what they're good for. So he quoted and said from Thomas Merton that a great story pulls us inside of a universal story. It lodges in the unconsciousness, where it's inaccessible to our brutalities of our own mind and will. But he talked about, Richard Rohr talks about Jesus' life for Christians as the archetypal map of every man and every woman. Like, we all go through this divine conception, ordinary life. We have betrayal, abandonment, rejection, crucifixion, resurrection, ascension. It all comes full circle, and we return to where we started, though now transformed. So, and he also quoted Jung as saying that it's a Christ archetype, that it's an almost perfect map of the whole journey of human transformation. So when I think about sacred texts, whether it's Bible or Bhagavad Gita, can I look at it as a map for my own transformation? So going back to the Gospel of John and thinking about that, it's out of the 4 Gospels, it's the one that looks at Jesus' life and through a lens of the mystic, and really speaking into the oneness that we are. And to me, that really speaks to the heart of our spiritual principles in Science of Mind. It actually starts with the words, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." And we just sang about that and this morning in some of the lines of our hymn, "O Come All You Faithful," that the Word becomes flesh, that there is this one that we're each individualizations of this oneness, like this infinite, universal loving consciousness that wants to pour itself into each of us. And what a wonderful thing to remember and to realize and bring that into each of our daily moments. So I love that. Another author I listen to or study, Alexander Shaya, is an anthropologist and a theologian and a psychologist. So he had some things in particular about the Gospels to share, and one of them was that about this Word becoming flesh, that in all the stories of Jesus' life in this Gospel of John, when he speaks the word, he speaks someone's name and beholds them. It's the moment of transformation. So he doesn't say that people's names very much in the gospel. When he speaks to Mary, she has an awakening. And when he speaks to Lazarus, he has an awakening. And he also speaks to Simon and gives him a different name. And he gives him the name Peter, which means, in Greek, Petros is like stone. But in this Mediterranean culture of the time, the first century, that metaphor was a metaphor for gold and pure substance. And so basically he's saying to Peter, like, you're an incorruptible substance. And Peter represents all of us. So we're all that incorruptible substance, the pureness, the stuff and substance of God that's pouring itself and manifesting and creating out of its own. So how wonderful to think about that and to remember that all that we are is the stuff and substance of God. That it wasn't like God created part of us as God and then threw in some other stuff like some jerkiness and some drama just to make it interesting. That it's all that we are, like that old Far Side cartoon. So that's what it is for me to remember, and I think for each of us to remember, to bring in hope and joy into a time of darkness, is to remember that stuff and substance of who we truly are and what we're called to be, this manifestation. Ernest Holmes says, the universe exists for the delight of its creator, that it shall behold itself in its own words and works, know its beauty and that which is beautiful, and in us, I believe, behold its beloved child in whom it is well pleased. So can you imagine the delight and the abundance of the universe having the opportunity to express itself as you? Can you imagine being formed out of that divine joy and abundance? Like that's the spirit and how you were created and how each of us was created. What a wonderful thing to think about out of this abundance and overflow. So when I think about hope and joy, I looked for some definitions and some examples. And one of the things that resonated with me for joy was something that Brene Brown, who's another author I like, said. She was talking with an activist friend of hers and talking about joy and how that's not happiness. It's not like a happenstance kind of flitting by. A joy is actually a deep sense of belonging, and it's plugging into a story that's larger than yourself and your limited idea. So I love that. When I think about that resonates for me. Those times when I felt the deepest joy was when I had an aha, or I had a sense of oneness, or a sense of belonging to this larger idea of transformation, this larger thing unfolding in me than in my moment that I might have been caught up in. So that sense of joy and belonging is important. I'm getting my small self out of the way. And then for hope, another author and person I listen to is Krista Tippett. And she was talking to a climate scientist who's also involved in the Christian evangelical community. And so you can imagine that maybe hope was hard to come by for a climate scientist, especially in the evangelical community. But they had such a sense of hope in this conversation, but they came to a place where they talked about hope, saying that it does not begin in a place of positive circumstances, and hope is not at the guarantee of a positive outcome. That hope is actually muscular. She used that term muscular. It's something that we're actively intending, and it's an affirmative action that we're taking in the face of whatever is in front of us. It's realizing what is, and then realizing that we have the agency and the consciousness to do something about it, to act in the face of whatever it is. So I like that idea of bringing hope into something from a muscular, intentional way, that what is doesn't have to be. And so we know that in Science of Mind, we know that our consciousness is powerful, and that we have that capability, that we're not at the effect of all that's happening around us, that hope, again, isn't some optimistic whim, that we actually have agency in our lives. And that's the real power of this philosophy, is the agency and the identity that we are individualized expressions of this powerful consciousness. So I was talking to another friend, a 12-step friend, about this, and he was saying that one of his sponsors always says, "Are you spiritually fit, or are things just going your way?" And so I think about when I If I think joy and hope just happen, then things are just going my way. But if I'm spiritually fit, that's an active practice that I'm living into this belief and doing things to remind myself of the truth that we know. So that could be like belonging to a spiritual community like this and being around people who can help remember the truth when I forget, taking part in activities in a spiritual community, doing prayer and meditation, doing spiritual readings. I'm really helping myself remember what it is to be a spiritual being, because even if I was spiritually fit last week or last month or last year, it's an ongoing thing. It doesn't mean I'm here, it's not here today unless I'm practicing it. So that's what it is for me to realize and bring hope and joy into a moment, whatever that moment is. And so as Beth mentioned, I'm a school leader, and so of course I'm talking about hope and joy, and sometimes experiences unlike that happen when I'm preparing for a talk. So last week I had a couple experiences. One, I had this little kinder, one of the classroom assistants texted me and she said, our friend is in the bathroom and he's not coming out, he's calling for you. And I was like, she must be pranking me. I'm not walking all the way across campus to help this little kid. And then she texts me 20 minutes later, I'm serious, he's in the bathroom, he's not coming out. And I was like, oh Lord. So I trudged across, and I'll spare you the details, but it did not seem or smell joyful. It was not a happy situation. But he finally came out, and I could have delved down the rabbit hole of parenting these days, and why isn't these kids learning how to take care of them. I could go on a whole story about that. And that takes me away from joy. But at the end of the day, standing around my some staff and telling, we were finding a way to laugh at it, and they were saying, oh, you took one for the team, and I was feeling, but in that moment, laughing at it and looking at it from a perspective, I could see that it's just one moment. It wasn't one moment of a long, hard day or a long, hard week. It was just one moment in an arc of doing good work, feeling like I'm doing what I'm here to do, and this just happened to be something that I could laugh at and bring joy to, and to share that joy with people rather than being stuck into the ain't it awfuls and how bad was my day kind of story. So again, that's using the consciousness in a joyful way rather than getting stuck in it. And then another situation that wasn't quite as funny, but I had a middle schooler dealing with some significant mental health issues and suicide and some things, and had some really heavy conversations with the team of staff and this person's guardian, and just beholding the layers of suffering and trauma that this young person had gone through, whether addiction in the home, violence in the home, foster abuse in the foster, discovering her LGBT identity, bully, just layer upon layer of things, and feeling stuck in that, and just beholding what suffering there can be with people, and feeling like the privilege that some have and others get these seemingly hands dealt to them that are just so, can be so traumatic. So that was hard to feel hopeful in that moment. Again, at the surface level, it didn't feel hopeful. But using the intentionality or the practice I have to try to know that there is hope, that there is something I can find in each situation and bring to that, I can reflect later and think and realize that whatever path led her here, she's in this school that has a staff that loves and cares for her, that's small enough to notice her and take care and circle around her. She has a loving home now. She's in a county that has plentiful mental health for those with low income. She has a capacity and a bright intelligence and creativity. So I could see that there is something working for good through all these different hands through the county, hands through the school, through different grandparents and different family members, that there's something conspiring for her good in this moment, and that's something that's evolving and expressing through her, that will move through her through this situation. But it takes a little bit of effort, like muscular part of hope. Another author I like is Liz Gilbert, and she talks about getting stuck in horizontal thinking. And that usually these times of horizontal thinking, whether it's fear or anxiety or worry, they seem to happen when, I don't know about for you, but for me, when I'm horizontal, it's about, in the midst of the dark of the night, and the fear and the worry gets going. And so for her, she says she needs to get vertical. It's interesting that the symbolism for horizontal is the human plane, the temporal plane, the human existence, and then the symbolism for the vertical plane is the spiritual and the transcendent. And so when you think about the symbol of the cross, it's that point of intersection between the human and the divine, the horizontal and the vertical. So when I'm getting stuck in my horizontal thinking, I have to find ways of getting vertical, whether it's physically getting up and getting in a vertical space, or finding some input, whether, like for me, like listening to some guided meditations in the middle of the night, or doing some spiritual reading, or even the next day when I'm getting up in vertical things, I have a different perspective. So that's what it is for me for that spiritual fitness, is really finding a way to get vertical, because then I can bring in the spiritual truth into the horizontal, into the moments that may seem dark or not so joyful. So when I think about finding hope and joy in each moment, what do we do with that? So we practice it, we keep practicing it, but for what? Ernest Holmes again says, the latent divinity within us stirs our imagination, and because of its insistent demand, impels and compels our growth. It's back of every invention. It proclaims itself through every creative endeavor, and will, when permitted, create a new world in which war, poverty, sickness, and famine will have disappeared. So circling back to the end of the Gospel of John, there's a scene where Jesus is with the disciples on the lake, and they're on the shore, and he asks Peter, "Do you love me?" And Peter says, "Yeah." And he says, "Well then go among the shepherds." And again, from my Alexander Shia's interpretation, during that time, shepherds were unclean. They worked in the muck and the yuck and they were considered unclean. You could smell them coming a mile away, and they weren't necessarily welcome in polite society. But so he's saying, take who you are, take that sense of being wholly loved for who you are, and take it into the stinkiest and hardest part of your life, like where you're realizing not only who you are, but you're bringing it into where you fear and doubt and judge and shame the most. So it's bringing that light, bringing the realization that you have wherever you are, doing your work in the most uncomfortable places. And it takes muscular activity and practice. So I'm going to finish with a story from Liz Gilbert, and she talks about the story about a bus ride home. She was in New York City, and it was the end of the day, and it was rush hour, and she's on this bus, and it's cramped full of people, and there's kind of an irritable, angry vibe. People are there's standing room only, and people are kind of shoving and elbowing each other, and a pregnant woman gets on the bus, and nobody gets up to give her seat, and they are just generally in that kind of mood. And so then the bus driver comes, he speaks over the intercom, he says, "Look, folks, I know it's a long, hard day, and I know we're stuck in traffic, and there's not a lot I can do about any of that. But he said, what I'm going to do is when we come to each stop, I'm going to put my hand out. And you are invited to put your troubles, leave them in my hand as you get off the bus, because then you won't take it home with you, and you can leave them here." He says, "As I finish my route, I drive by the Hudson River, I'm going to put my hand out, and I'll put the troubles there and let the river wash them away." And so the vibe changed in the bus, and people kind of stopped and like, "Is this guy serious?" But then they kind of started laughing, and it kind of lightened up the mood. And so sure enough, he came to each stop. As he came to each stop, he put his hand out, and people put their hand over his and let their troubles leave it. And as he went home, put the troubles in the Hudson and let them get washed away. And so she ends by saying this, we live in a hard world, my friends. Sometimes it's extra difficult to be a human being. Sometimes you have a bad day. Sometimes you've had a bad day that lasts for several years. You struggle and fail, you lose jobs and money, friends, faith, and love. You witness horrible events unfolding in the news, and you become fearful and withdrawn. I may have done that a time or two. There are times when everything seems cloaked in darkness, and you long for the light, but you don't know where to find it. But what if you are the light? What if you are the very agent of illumination that a dark situation begs for? That's what this bus driver taught me, that anyone can be the light at any moment. This guy wasn't some big power player. He wasn't a spiritual leader. He wasn't some media-savvy influencer. He was a bus driver, one of society's most invisible workers. But he possessed real power, and he used it beautifully for our benefit. So no matter who you are, or where you are, or how mundane or tough your situation may seem, I believe you can illuminate your world. In fact, I believe this is the only way the world will ever be illuminated, one bright act of grace at a time, all the way to the river. So that's my invitation for us today, is to bring that forth, to remember who am I? What is the universe delighting to express as me and all that I am? Can you practice these truths every day? Can you work on being spiritually fit, finding hope and joy in whatever circumstance you find yourself? Because what else are we here for, right? Bringing it to everyone and every place we go. So I'm going to invite us to end with some affirmations. So you can repeat after me. Let's just take a deep breath. First of all, breathe that in. So God is all that I am, pure, incorruptible, and whole.
God is all that I am, pure, incorruptible, and whole.
I bring the conscious realization of hope and joy everywhere I go.
I bring the conscious realization of hope and joy everywhere I go.
Thank you, God, for who I am and what I bring.
Thank you, God, for who I am and what I bring.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you.
Sarah. It's fun. And this is the time of our sacred giving. This is the time when we have the opportunity to put those ideas and thoughts into action and to send them out into the community. So I'd like to invite our ushers to come forward. And as they are making their way up here, again, I'd like to remind you that we are, as an intentional community, you can come forward, as an intentional community, that does mean that we put our ideas into play. And to do so, it does require some support, some financial support, some recognition that we need to help with the lights staying on and the different parts, the moving parts behind the scene. So everything that you do is appreciated and is a part of that intentional giving that this community is about. So there are many ways to give. We make it kind of a user-friendly thing, especially those of you that are online with us today. You can give here, and the ushers will be around in a moment. I'm going to do my cheat sheet. Hold on. So I only hear it every week. You'd think I would know this, but you can call the office and speak to whoever happens to be here at that time and give your donation over the phone. You can go over to our website and hit the donate button. You can mail your offerings in to us. All of this is on the chat online, so that information is available to you. This is a time when there is probably a greater need in many ways for having our opportunities to reach out in the community. So we're all part of that family and that community, and so we appreciate what you do for us. And so please join me as we know that this offering is a gift from God. We are a channel of giving, we're a channel of receiving, and as we give, prosperity and abundance flow back to us. It is all part of that infinity process. It is part of the abundance of the universe, and it moves through us to bring light and love to all those who are searching for support. I know that it multiplies and expands and supports CSL TV in fully expressing God's love in all ways. And so I release and let it go, and so it is. And so join me in our affirmation, which I had to write down because, again, I say it every week, and then I thought, how does this start? So I have a little card. So join me in this. Put your offerings to your heart. Allow that connection. It's not just a symbol or a gesture. There is a connection between the heart and the hand and the mind. As we say our affirmation together, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now. And so we will sing with Danielle as we...
God is my source, God is my power, God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings, God gives me everything I need. Love is my source, love is my power, love gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings, love gives me everything I need. God is my source, God is my power, God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings, God gives me everything I need.
This is the time of our announcements, which I realized when I got here today I didn't have. So I had to go out and scroll at my phone and pull things together. So if I'm forgetting anything, it's on the website. This is a busy month. There's lots and lots and lots of things going on. So if I'm forgetting something, or if you have a special connection to one of them, please forgive and love me as I move forward. So one of the ones I didn't write down, but I did remember is there is a table right across from the doors. We are sponsoring 2 families this year for our holiday giving. It's a father of a single dad of 4 and a single mom of 2, I think. And there are lists out there of the things that they would like. So they're different ages, and heaven knows if you have to buy for kids, that's a guessing game in itself. So if you want to just financially support, or if you'd like to buy and bring back, I believe the last day for the collection is next Sunday the 19th. Okay, I got confirmation on that, so we're good. So right across, and if you just want to stop and take a look and see if something calls you or speaks to you, that would be lovely. We have a lot of holiday things going on this month. So this coming Wednesday, the 15th, we are doing a remembrance service online on our Community Connection, Zoom connection, which we do on Wednesday nights at 7. This one will be the remembrance service. So you're welcome. If you'll find the connection on the website to join us. This is a time, Reverend Catherine brought this when she joined us a few years ago. It's a way to be in this time, especially if there's loss or something that's kind of almost holding you back just a little bit. It's a way to remember those and honor that, and then be able to kind of be present in the holidays and all the different festivities. So it's a beautiful service. You're invited to join us at 7 on Wednesday. If you have a picture of someone and you want to remember them, bring that to that. If you have a candle that you want to light, normally we do it here, and it has all those elements, so you'll be doing it from home, but the connection is still there. So that's Wednesday. Next Sunday, the 19th, we're doing Holidays Around the World celebration. So there's going to be apparently all kinds of goodies and different types of traditions. And you're also invited to bring your own family holiday tradition food type thing if you'd like. Like, like I did earlier, I remember my grandmother always would make this and so. You're invited to bring those. But that's going to be next Sunday, right after service here. There's a candlelight service Thursday, December 23rd at 7 here. I believe it's going to be online also. I'm seeing heads nod, so I think I'm safe on that one too. But it is Thursday the 23rd will be our candlelighting service. The World Peace Meditation is Friday, December 31st. Ann Woodward will be hosting that here. And if you've not done it before, this is kind of cool. It's been going on for decades. Everyone gets together at noon, Greenwich Mean Time, and meditates on peace. So it's around the world. So guess what? Because we're in California, to match with Greenwich Mean Time, you know what time that is for us? We get to be 4 a.m. on the 31st. So it's really fun. You come out in the dark, and then when you come back out, as the sun is coming up, and it's kind of cool, and everybody goes to breakfast, or at least they have in the past. We had to do it last year on Zoom. So you're invited to that. The 31st, not New Year's Day, New Year's Eve at 4 a.m. So that's always fun, and then you get a little bragging rights. Okay, and then Sunday, January 2nd, which will be service, we will be doing a burning bowl ritual. So it's an opportunity to leave some of that stuff kind of behind and be able to step into the new year kind of with intentions. So those are the announcements for the monthly stuff. The other things that you hear, if you've been here before, we have a men's ministry, if you want to see Reverend Michael to find out about that. We have a Sisters in Spirit, which meets once a month. You can see practitioner Julie Nims to find out about that. We have a book study that goes as an ongoing thing, and you can contact Ann Woodward if you're interested in finding out. And then I just want to remind you again, we brought coffee back. So write down, I'm pointing this way in case you don't know what that is. At the end of the breezeway is a social hall. There's coffee in there, so please join us after the service for that. And also, our practitioners are here. We have new practitioner things. I know there's no name for it, but stoles. Yeah, it's been a long hour. Stoles, thank you. Aren't they pretty? They're really pretty. They're very petable. I was saying to Gilbert, they're very petable. So, not that you can come and pet us, but know that we're enjoying that. We are available. There are chairs outside after service if you'd like some prayer, some support. If you'd like to put a prayer request, we have prayer requests boxes in the back. If you'd like to just write something out, it goes out to all the practitioners, and we hold that in prayer all week. So with all of that done on my little piece of paper, hold on. I'm going to invite Reverend Sarah back. You'd think I would know this after more than a few years.
Oh, great.
So
So
she's
it's
going
our
to
time
lead
for
us.
benediction. All right. Do you all stand up to do that or no?
Well, we're going to do a prayer first, a healing prayer, and then we'll do the, yeah. we'll
Okay.
just
All right.
set it up.
Just kidding.
Thank you. That was a test.
Okay, so I invite you to close your eyes or to just find a place, moment, a pause of stillness. Let us anchor in the truth to know that there is there's a divine loving intelligence knowing itself and expressing itself and revealing itself as only it can in each and every person, every circumstance, time, and place. And so I know that truth is more powerful and more true than any other story or old fear or habit. That we are indeed living into and realizing greater and greater experiences of truth, of hope, of joy, of wholeness, right where we are in every moment. I know that we're doing that for ourselves, and we do that for all of those around us, and that it ripples out into the world, into our world, into a collective experience of good for all of us. And so I'm so thankful to know that together today, to know that in this shared community of intentionality, and powerful consciousness. And so I ask you to join with me in knowing that truth and giving thanks for that truth by saying, and so it is.
So it is.
There was a time in my life I thought I had to do it all for myself. I didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. I didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, you've got to let it go. And this is what you've got to say. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Said I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Let's hear you now. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God.
So let's step forward this week as those lights for joy and hope for ourselves and for all that we encounter. Have a great week.